Hello Nexians. Today I've got for you guys the Stalker DPS guide. So this is going to be our solo PvE DPS guide, and I will also have another follow-up video later on with the PvP DPS guide. So right now we've got Assault Armor, that should be a given, and skill number 1, Ruin, Cripple, Neutralize, Analyze Weakness, Punish, Preparation, Bloodthirst, and Clone. Now note, to use this spec you will need all of your skill and amp points, but all of the gear that I'm using is not necessarily required. There is some room for playing around for pre-raid gear type of builds. So I'll give you a quick look at the skill tree here. You've got Analyze Weakness here at tier 4, Punishment at tier 8, Neutralize is at tier 8 as well. Now this is where our main source of damage is going to come from, is from this ability and this ability here. Now a lot of people, I've seen a lot of stalkers, this is a very good favorite in Pale. And for PvP and for single target dungeons and raids and stuff like this would be a better choice to go with for burst damage. But for solo PvE farming, I find more targets. There's most mob packs and stuff have more than one target, and also just for the ease of use for the 360-degree telegraph versus the 90-degree telegraph, it just allows the player to easily not have to face their target. You know, you can move around your target and dodge and evade and everything like that without having to necessarily face your target, and it makes it harder for you to get hit, and you can still deal a significant amount of damage. So with Neutralize here, tier 4, Punish resets the increase in energy cost with each strike. So every strike with Neutralize, it starts with 15 power and builds to 5 more power cost with each strike that you do, and when you use your punishment, it will reset that cost and make the cost back down to 15 again. Alright, and also, every time that you hit a foe, it marks them, and on the 4th hit, every 4th hit that you deal to an enemy with Neutralize, it will consume those marks, and it will deal an extra large amount of damage, which is basically the equivalent of like an extra hit. It will be like hitting them twice on the so every 4 hits counts as 5 hits really with Neutralize. So it's in the 5th hit that you get that extra burst of damage, that the damage, you know, will start to bring up, it will actually exceed Impale, but only with a longer rotation, only with more strikes. But you're going to have lots of soup generation and lots of soup generation power coming with this, so you'll be able to get off lots of strikes with a 360-degree telegraph, and it won't be a problem at all. And you'll also be able to reset it with punishment. So this is a very fast rotation. It's hard to explain the rotation while doing it, so I'll explain it first, and then I will get some shots of going and doing it, and you can see it basically in action. So you start off with your stealth. We're in stealth, and while we're in stealth, it's also good to note that your damage is increased by 8% when you exit stealth, and you have you also have a 20% increased chance to critically hit after leaving stealth. But while in stealth, attacks from stealth have a 100% chance to crit. So your first hit within stealth is going to be a crit. So this is going to be a crit. Now, it's also good to note with your gear, your set runes that you're going to be using here, your base set runes is going to be Devastation and Onslaught. And that's going to give you critical hit chance, critical hit severity, and strike through. So you want to stack the majority of critical hit severity so that first hit is going to hit like a truck. You want nice critical hit severity. Critical hit chance, you can leave a little bit on the lower side compared to critical hit severity, because you're going to be gaining lots of boosts after exiting stealth and also with preparation. Okay, and now strike through. How this works here is base mobs have a standard of deflect rate of 5%, the same as you do. And any strike through that exceeds an enemy's deflect rate is converted to armor penetration. So basically anything over 5% strike through will be extra armor penetration against regular trash mobs out in open world, with the exception of, say, primes or dungeons who have a higher deflect rate of 7 to 10%. But still, you will still have strike through, and they will not be deflecting your attacks back at you, and you'll have extra armor penetration. And then the onslaught set, again, will boost that up as well. And for raiding, you need a really high strike through percentage. Recommended is 10 to start GA and 16 to start Datascape for just being able to basically have a chance to hit the mobs. But that's something to go on to later. Anyways, that's why we have strike through. That's why we have high critical hit severity. Those set runes there. And I'll give you a good tip for fusion runes for the weapon. Best one you could have in slot would be detonation. Alright, and for your helmet, you're going to want deadly blows. Now for the shoulders, this is one of the classes why it gets a little tricky. You can have a PvP shoulders here, and these are actually going to be my best. I would recommend either using the shoulders, the gloves, or the boots. Ideally, really, the boots would be the best choice to go with for PvP, because they have the lowest stats on them. They have the lowest contribution to assault rating and armor and health compared to like your chest, which has much higher assault and armor and maximum health. So if you can only have one PvP item, the best item to have would be either your boots or your gloves. Shoulders isn't too bad either. It's pretty close. So anyways, the reason why we do this is because we have the Garroter set. And with this Garroter set bonus, this here, we're going to regenerate additional suit power every 1 second, and Impale and Neutralize will refund 15 suit power if they do not hit a target. Now this can be both useful in PvE and PvP. So this is why we're going to keep this set on here. And hitting a crippled foe generates 3 suit power, and that's why we're going to have the cripple on here. Even if you don't have this Garroter set or a PvP item like this, and you don't have this set equipped, you know, cripple is still going to be really one of your best options. The reason why it's great is because it has charges and it doesn't require suit power to use. It uses charges and it refreshes on cooldown, and it doesn't use suit power. So this is one of your abilities you can use instead of shred to once you've run out of suit power, just to land another crit, just to get some sort of a crit to reproc your punish, to get that up, to get your suit power back up. So if you don't like using this, you can also use shred, but you won't get the cooldown on your abilities from that class set. So it'll generate extra suit power to your target, so you get the more suit power generation if you hit them with this first, right? And now I've got some other class sets in here. These are not necessarily needed for this, but they will help. I'll just read them for you so you guys can have an understanding of what they're gonna do for you once you get them. The Eviscerator set increases your maximum suit power. Impale and Neutralize deal extra damage, physical damage when they're used from stealth. And Impale and Neutralize reduce the cooldown of your armor, which is basically your stealth, by 1 second when you use them. So it'll allow you to re-stealth in combat and give yourself that buff again. And then the other set we have here is the Assassin set. Now these are not needed for this build, but they will help. So this also increases the max suit power, and Cripple reduces the cooldown of Punishment, Analyze Weakness, and Clone by 1 second when used, and every third assault finisher generates extra suit power. So if you don't have all of this suit power generation, you'll still be able to pull it off. You're just going to have to time your punishments, you know, at a better time when your suit power is low to get the maximum amount of suit power generated back from it, instead of popping it off whenever. But regardless of when you use it, it will give you suit power generated, but it's only 30 if you're above 50 and 50 if you're below with tier 8. So that's helpful to use. But now we're also gonna look at the amp tree. Now this is where it really comes into play. So we've got the cooldown here. We need these points spec to get our clone out, And our clone is actually very an underrated, but one of the best abilities that you can have in slot while you're working your rotation, because he's basically physical dot damage. Once you spawn him, he's going to attack your target with physical damage over time, and if they try to cast an ability, he will attempt to knock them down and interrupt them. And basically he's just physical damage, if nothing else, while you're working through your rotation. So think of him as like physical damage, a physical dot that follows you around and has a chance to knock down. It's actually very, very helpful. And we're going to go with Killer Instinct. All non-critical hits grant 1 critical hit chance for 8 seconds. And critical hit resets the bonus, but it grants him power. So as long as you're gaining a critical hit, it'll keep giving you this empower, and that will give you increased critical hit chance and critical hit severity. So every time that you don't crit with this, you know, your critical hit chance will keep raising until you finally do crit, but you don't need very high crit chance to keep this proccing basically consistently. And then you've got Who's Next. Exiting stealth grants him power, increases your damage by 4% for 5 seconds, and then Bloodthirst. You got Bloodthirst down here. Right, sorry, you needed this for your Bloodthirst ability. This is going to give you increased damage, and it's also going to give you your life steal. So, and this applies also to other members that are in your party, and this is probably one of, if not the best, stalker ability, unique stalker ability for parties and yourself, because it increases damage and gives you an insane amount of life steal, you know, and can have everybody in the party just regenerate all of their life from their damage. Okay, so we've got the clone, and with tier 4 preparation, this is also going to generate suit power for you, and this is pretty much the only basic heal that you have. So if you're hurt and you have no other way to heal yourself in combat, this is the only heal that you'll have, but it also generates suit power, and it's very helpful to have PvP and PvE. I would recommend keeping this at tier 4 all the time. Okay, and this also generates suit power when used at tier 4. Now back to the amp tree to finish off. All of these points in the assault, very helpful. Brutality, while above 50 health, we gain more damage. Devastate, critical hits deal extra physical damage to foes below 25% health, and it pierces armor. And just all damage mitigation, gone. Landing a hit from behind grants more power, increased damage. Getting behind the target and hitting them, even with your 360-degree telegraph, is very easy, because you can move freely without having to face your target. Blood Rush, when attacking from stealth, you gain another power. Right on. So these are all true damage things that are going to apply basically every time that you exit stealth, and with every single pack that you kill. Once that pack is dead, your stealth resets instantly, and you can stealth again, go on to the next pack, and kill them really quickly. And then Fatal Wounds, critical hits deal extra damage. It's extra dot damage, pierces armor. And there's the clone right there. There's only 2 points to unlock your clone. Okay, so now we've got this one here. We've got more strike through. You only really need 3 points in this to unlock this tier. And then we're going to go with follow-up. Now, this is a little bit tricky and takes some practice, but without the other class sets, this is probably going to be, with preparation, your main source of suit power regeneration while you're in combat, is follow-up. Okay, and we're going to have 1 point of life steal here. And we got 3 points of armor penetration here. Now, people might be thinking 3 points of armor penetration, 1 point of life steal. You could, throw on precision and gain some extra damage, but I recommend having at least 2% life steal as a base, and then as your damage increases, it doesn't take too long before your damage will, your healing from this will exceed the damage that you're taking, and then you'll be able to, it'll increase your sustain. And then you'll have 3 points left over. Armor penetration is just more true damage, and it will slice through everything. High armor, low armor. It'll increase your raw damage to non-crits and crits. So it's more true damage, and this precision only helps you really with the first attack. It only really helps you with that first attack out of combat. Okay, and we've got this, and then follow-up. So now how follow-up works is once you rotate your armor here, you're going to gain suit power regeneration. And it only works every 12 seconds, but you swap them really quickly. Now, I've got a couple of keys bind here for defensive armor and assault armor. But basically, it's just a quick switch of that. So if you see stalkers, you know, sitting here going like that, it's because they've got follow-up on their bar, and they're just sitting there being cute. Alright, but watch how much suit power generation we get with preparation and with follow-up. So, I'm gonna run all the way out, and then here's preparation. Fills it up nice and fast. Now I'm gonna run it again, and then I'm gonna use follow-up. And again, look at it coming up really fast. If you use these two in combination, you know, your suit power generation is insanely high, and you can burst through, and you can use as much of your abilities as fast as you can. You will not burn through it. You know, with Impale, that's an insane amount of burst damage. Okay, so that's how our skills and our amps work. So now I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna go through the rotation. I'll do my daily quest later. There's always time. There's lots of time. And this is Arctera, and it's beautiful with my new computer and my new GTX 980 Ti graphics card. Oh, it's so pretty. So pretty. So let's do these challenges here by the wild tests. I know, I like these guys. They're my favorite. They've got enough health to actually, you know, make it, you know, live long enough to show the rotation. The other trash mobs die too fast. So we're gonna go in, analyze weakness, punishment, and or neutralize. As soon as you hit them with your neutralize, I like to pop my punishment right away, because this will tag them with the debuff and hit them right away. And then, you know, as you leave, you're gonna hit, and then after this, preparation, and then start just holding down neutralize and spamming this. And then once we've run out, ruin, cripple, follow up, punishment, and go. There's actually a time where we throw the clone in there too. I'll actually just do it. It's like I said, it's hard to explain it all, and let's just watch it. We'll do it. And go here. So preparation and then the clone. There you go. You also have ruin in there as a dot. And it only costs 5 suit power and has a 5-second cooldown. So really, that's really the last resort that I like to use. Is ruin when I have no suit power and I have nothing else to tag him with, because it's such a low power. It's 10 power, but it has a 5-second cooldown, and it just adds more dot damage onto the target. So right now I don't have a reliable interrupt on my bar. My clone will attempt to interrupt targets, but he is not a reliable interrupt. So if I had to swap anything on my bar here for an interrupt, I would use, yes, then I would definitely swap this one here for the interrupt and throw on stagger. And now we've got a reliable interrupt that I can cast, and he also has a chance to interrupt the target as well. So go over here. And nice and early, you want to get your punishment off, because you're going to be able to hit them with that hit, refill your energy, and you can still spam your neutralize. And by the time you actually run out of suit power, your punishment has cooled down again. You know, there's not really a full like rotation that you need to repeat the exact same order every single time, because depending on how many times the target takes to hit. Also notice you can hit them once, re-stealth, and hit them again. So now watch my armor. So if I'm stealth, we go up, we hit him with the neutralize, and then this will cool down right away, re-stealth, hit him with neutralize again, and you've got 2 instant crits. And also, analyze weakness, you can tag him with this. This doesn't break stealth, so that's going to be a guaranteed crit as well. So we go boof, stealth, boof, punishment, there, boof, 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 and just go. If you want to, hit him with the stagger while they're going, the telegraph, and interrupt him. And when you run out, just go with that. And look at that. That third hit from the cripple procs this. But then if you run out of charges, then you've got stagger on here, but you don't have one last thing to cast, and that's when you'd go with follow up. It takes practice. It's so fast because there's so many. It's a complex rotation with a stalker, but it should be expected. I mean, you're a stealth assassin. You show up in stealth and you deal, like, 12 blows in like 2.5 seconds and basically destroy your enemy before they even realize that they're under attack. That's the way an assassin should be. Just like that. And we go from target to target. And you can shred through people as well. But there's some more PvP abilities that'll be a bit more helpful for you, but that'll be a whole other video. So I hope you guys enjoyed these tips for the Stalker here for the PvE guide. Alrighty, I will be having the other videos for the Esper, and I think that's the only one that I have left to do. But enjoy this, guys. Alright, share with your friends. And happy Steam launch, everybody. Yeah! Woo!